The question keeps coming up, do cover crops pay? You know, I've got a planting cost, I got the seed cost. Am I coming out ahead? Greg is one of the demonstration farms in the Between the Lakes Demonstration Farm Network. And on this field, we wanted to test that idea. How much weed control does Winter Rye give us? We had a cover crop of Winter Rye that was planted after corn silage. So it was on the early side. They spread 90 pounds of Winter Rye on the surface with a dry fertilizer spreader. They came back with the vertical till just to get that rye in the ground, and they got a really nice establishment already in fall. Here, where we have a lot of rye biomass, I'm sure you've read about or heard about different farms that are trying just rye, rolling it down, cutting back on herbicides, or maybe using no herbicide at all. So we decided this would be a good opportunity to try that. And then we started to add herbicide ingredients, and that's where we were hoping, okay, we can put a price to all these different herbicide ingredients, and then we can at the end compare using Winter Rye, including the seeding costs and the planting costs, to no-till with herbicide options. One of the extension weed scientists in the Midwest, and I apologize, I can't remember which state, but he launched the idea a couple of years ago that we should think of Winter Rye as another active ingredient like a herbicide. It does what a herbicide does for soybeans. You know, it doesn't do everything, but it does quite a bit. So the reason we got you all out here is to get you thinking. Between rye and herbicides, I think we can play around with the ingredients, save some money, and get weed control that we need. No herbicide was put on this strip for quite a while, until the rye was like this and heading out. And then we decided, okay, we're going to spray that off with just glyphosate, and that's what happened here. So it's not organic. It did get glyphosate, which would have killed whatever weeds were there at the time. It terminated the rye. But then we had the issue of the rye was, you know, pretty tall, standing, shading out the soybeans. We know that's not necessarily a good thing, especially in corn, but it's not helpful for soybeans either to have all that shade. So within a couple of days after spraying, they took just a regular roller, right, and rolled down the rye so it wasn't shading the soybeans. So adding the metolachlor was another $11.25 an acre. So our total weed control cost is up to $49.95. So then our next one is we're going to add metribuzin or Sencor. Our total weed control cost up to $51.95 between the burn down and the post emergence. That's getting pricey. That's more than what I think a lot of us realize that we're spending on soybeans. But that's still on the cheap side compared to what we're actually spending. It does a lot for very little money, but we got to be careful with it because we have high pH soils. It's labeled up to 4 ounces. If we put on 4 ounces on our soybeans, on our soils, we're going to have stunted beans. And even at 2 ounces sometimes, we'll see that bean plant get a little bit shorter. So as you walk past the flag is going to show the line between with metribuzin and not. Look closely, I think you'll see just a slight decrease in the height of the soybeans. But if we don't watch the rates, we could really injure soybeans on on our soils with a full rate of metribuzin. So we have not had problems with the 2-ounce rate. All right, and then from here on, we've got the same mix, so all those same ingredients, plus sulfentrazone. Sulfentrazone is another soil active herbicide in a different chemistry class that's very active on mostly the broadleaves. So that's what you're going to see from the flag to the next signpost. So we look down here, and probably from the second treatment on, I think we probably all recognize that the weed control here is better than the second one, but we also spent a lot more money. Sulfentrazone's not cheap either. That, adding the sulfentrazone at $8.20 an acre, brings up our total cost to $60.15, and that's without the enlist that we planned on putting enlist on this field, but it didn't need it, so we didn't do it. The enlist would have bought up the cost another $12.50, so we would have had $72.65 in weed control costs if we would have put that on. So minimally, we could say that that Winter Rye saved us the cost of enlist. But did it offset the whole cost of the Winter Rye seed and planting? Well, that's what we'll talk about here now. So let's talk about weed control, just kind of straight no-till without a cover crop. Okay, so with straight no-till, you got to have a burn down early anyways, and that's minimally a quart of glyphosate. Probably a quart and a half is better. A pint of 2,4-D, imazethapyr, which is that pursuit, and all those other ingredients I read: metribuzin, metolachlor, sulfentrazone. We'll put an application cost in here of $10, and then another pass with a quart and a half of glyphosate post-emergence, clethodim for the volunteer corn at 6 ounces, and then a quart of Enlist 1 at $12.50, plus application cost again. So that conventional no-till Enlist soybean program costs you $88.03 for your weed control program. That's more than I was thinking. I think that's more than a lot of you are realizing. So how does that compare if we started to use Winter Rye as a cover? And that's what we've got here. So if we compare the cost of the Winter Rye seed at about 18, and a lot of this seed cost is highly variable. If you can get year-off seed from, there's farms around that are combining it, saving, you can buy year-off seed. I've got a cost in of $18 an acre. Planting that cover crop seed also can be highly variable. Are you doing it with a drill? Are you doing a fertilizer spreader? For those pre-plant herbicides, I'm just taking a stab at what I see here, and is it all necessary? So I'm saying we want to always put that 2,4-D in with the burn down. You may have giant ragweed, some winter annuals that need to be killed early, and 2,4-D is cheap. It'll do a good job on those things. The Pursuit obviously did a lot for us, that first treatment, and it's not that much, $3.65 an acre. To me, that's a value. That metribuzin at $2 an acre, I know that gives us a lot of weed control. To me, that's a value. And then the question, kind of what Cheyenne is getting at, how much other ingredients do you need? I think we need to play around on our fields and try this. But I'm saying we either would go with that sulfentrazone, this last treatment, or leave that out and put in metolachlor. So depending on, you have more of a grass problem or more of a broadleaf problem. And I put a cost of $10, so one or the other using that. And then we do have to come back the second time. So That's going to be a quart of glyphosate. That's exactly what we did here with your AMS. We're going to add the clethodim, which we didn't do here because we need to wipe out the volunteer corn. Application cost of $10. So our total cost, including planting the winter rye, including the seed, is $83.70 compared to this cost of $88.03. So we were able to do that with the cover crop for slightly less, a little less than $4 less per acre. And then we're getting some benefits out of that cover crop, right? I think we all recognize, the erosion part. How much erosion are we going to get when you've got a early established winter rye and whatever last year's crop residue is? It's down to basically zero. It's very, very small. Soil health. We're all here because we are interested in soil health. I personally know it's real. I've seen fields that are horrible dead, and it's amazing how fast they can start to improve with no-till and cover crop. And some of you are much farther down the path than I am on that, but it's soil health is real. Soil water management. So, I don't know if there is such a thing as normal. Farmers joke at that, but what's much more common to happen is we have too much moisture on our fields in the spring. And a cover crop that's living like winter rye or winter wheat can help us with that situation. It can help pull out some of that extra moisture so that those low spots are drying out and getting to the point of where we can plant through it. This year was kind of the extreme the other way, that it started to look like, boy, it's not going to rain, it's going to be dry. And instead of letting that cover crop go forever, we did early termination on most fields. This we did not, because we wanted to see what the rye was going to do. If you read the magazines, even driving around, I think a lot of us are planting enlist soybeans now. They had been doing a good job, but just driving around, I'll see a field that I know is enlist, and then there'll be one circle of water hemp. To me, that's a big warning sign that there was a plant there maybe 2 years ago that was resistant, and now it's spread. And watch out next year, because that combine's going to spread it all over. It's already been confirmed in the state of Wisconsin, resistance to enlist, several spots across the country. We know that's going to happen. So we need to look for ways to help us with water hemp. And winter rye is definitely, if we could think of as an active ingredient, it's another way to help us manage resistant weeds, especially like water hemp.